Hello, hello. Good evening or day or whatever time it is there. It's Riikka Kovasin here with a mixed media live. Let me just check from my computer that something is transmitting to the group. Let's see. At least I can see me, so hopefully it will be okay. There's still a couple of minutes before we actually start, but I wanted to get a head start just to check that everything is working. So please just write a comment or let me know that you can see and hear me. I think seeing part is okay, but naturally I've muted the computer so it doesn't go circulating, so I'm not sure if the volume is okay. But hello! Today or this evening I'm recreating this art journal spread using some pattern papers, stamping, different mediums. I'm also talking about why I chose these two sheets of paper that I used here, and well, give you at least one tip. Hopefully more, but at least one tip. So hopefully you'll like what we're doing. Thank you, Kay. Let me just add a couple of links to the chat now that we still have a couple of minutes to start. The first will be for the blog post where all the materials are listed in case you want to know the paper or the modeling paste I'm using. And there's links to the manufacturer sites as well. And the second link is to my Instagram account if you want to follow me, because the handle is paperliitin, which means paperclip in Finnish, but I'm sure that it's a hard to spell it as it's a Finnish word, so let me add them just here, so in case you want to follow or look me up, they are now on the chat. Thank you, Dee. This looks a little bit crooked because the other journal is underneath, so let's remove that for now. I'm actually starting a new journal for this live. I do have a couple of journals always on the go. This is kind of my preferred size of the journal. So the other one I have with this size is almost full, so it's looking like this. Oh, because my pages tend to be quite dimensional, so I'm thinking it's easier for me to work on a bit flatter surface now during the live. Now that we still have a couple of minutes, if you have any questions, please just add them to the chat and I'll either reply them immediately or then I'll go through every comment after if I miss anything. But now that we have a couple of more minutes, I can, for example, share that this is my, well, favorite journal because of the size, but also because of the ring binding, and that's got to do with the dimensional pages. Some people hate the ring binding as it's kind of, well, how do you say it, splitting the page in two. It's not a uniform continuing page when you're doing spreads, but I normally do, well, actually in this journal they are all spreads, but what I do more often is just one page, so that doesn't matter. And I also like the ring binding because of the height, so anything that's really tightly bound, it's not good for me because then it starts to unravel when I add a dimensional pieces around. 1 more minute. Let's try to be exact. And then we can start. Where are you from? I'm from Finland and it's still light outside after the long dark winter. But are you from Europe or, and if in Europe, which countries? A sip of tea. Okay, we are now, it's 8 here. So let's get started. Hey, Kati. So, yeah. New Hampshire, USA. Okay, we have USA. It's, I'm not sure where New Hampshire is. Southern California. Okay. Hey, Anne-Marit. So it's afternoon in USA, I'm thinking. Hi, Brian. Thank you. Okay, let's get started. Now I'm getting distracted. But yeah, let me open a new journal. And as we are doing a spread, let's move to the first spread. Hi, Diane. So first of all, I'm starting by adding some papers. When I'm doing an art journal spread or a page, there's 2 ways. Kind of either doing my own papers by jelly printing or painting or whatever, inking, or then using pattern papers. For this page, I chose 2 from A.B.Studio, and these are both from the same collection, Follow the Rabbit. But these are fantastic in my opinion, because the other one has a perfect background. It has some kind of pattern, but it's also so light that I can build anything up on top of that. And then the other side is perfect little roses that you can cut out for embellishments. So it's kind of handy to have both sides that are so workable. The other one is then more of a solid green color, and then there's clocks on the other side. Again, something that can be used as layering or background and then embellishing. Hi, Joanne. So I have the green part here, which I can use, but I need some more from this one. So let's cut a strip. It's about 11.5 in centimeters. That should go to this journal. Let's see if my notes are correct. Hey, Tarja. And then 18 and a little bit more. Normally I don't like measure that much, but now that I'm adding something inside the journal, it's handy that it fits there. So I have 2. Shall I make the same kind of composition as here, or do you want me to do it opposite? You can decide. While you decide, I then cut a little piece of this one. So we want to strip to the other page, and then a bigger piece to the other. I know I think you might not even know what I'm meaning by it. So do you want the green to come on the right side or to the left side, because I'm continuing the paper with another piece, kind of hiding that there's not enough. Of course, from the 12 by 12 that this actual paper is. Hi Louisa! You could just cut 2 strips, but if you want to do more pages, like more spreads, then by hiding the seam with another piece, that well gives you more to go on for the next pages. And then I'm using a little strip to the other side, kind of to balance thing out, so it's not just like this, but there's something green on the other side as well already, and that's kind of the grounding element for the composition coming on top then. But well, do we do it like this, so there's a bigger block on the left and smaller one on the right, or the vice versa? Yeah, this lacy one is really, really beautiful. It's from the company called A.B.Studio. So I'll start to put the double-sided tape already here and trying to keep an eye on the... I like it like you have it. It says Judith, right side bigger. So I'm guessing it's this way. Yeah. Kay says what I'm actually thinking, that if I'm doing it this way, you can see the 2 options kind of, as this is then mirrored to the sample project. The only thing is then that the mood of the page will be different. But let's do it like this, because then I can explain why the mood will be different. Or then, let's see. So this is just double-sided tape. So sometimes if I'm doing light layers, let's say, or collage layers, then I use a gel medium. But for this just paper on paper, the first layer, I usually nowadays go with a dry adhesive, so with double-sided tape, because it's so much faster. No drying times needed. Of course, these papers could be anything. It just affects the overall mood a little bit. By using something neutral in the background, it's then easy for you to pick any color you want to the foreground or coming on top. Now that I'm using green, I tend to continue with the same palette. I hardly ever mix contrasting colors like red and green to the same project, but it's just my way of doing. Of course, that gives a lovely effect if they are opposite colors. Really make the other colors sing. Come on. So here we go. I could put it here as well, kind of both solid colors on the bottom, but I kind of like the diagonal thing, so that's why I'm putting it up here, not to the bottom. Hi Noreen! Now that we have the base done, the next layer usually is gesso. There's a hint of it showing here underneath, but not that much anymore. But let's do that. I use it for a couple of reasons. First of all, it kind of, there's now a harsh line. With gesso on top, I'm able to blend it a little. But most of all, what a gesso layer does, it's a primer, so it seals the surface. So I'm going to add watercolor and infusions, which are water reactive, on top. So by having a gesso layer here underneath, that prevents from the colorants soaking into the paper immediately, and thus I have a more play time for the mediums. If you really like the pattern of the paper and don't want to hide it at all, then by all means use clear gesso instead, because white already has the white pigment, so it's somewhat opaque, even though I'm doing a really light layer. As you can see, I'm kind of pushing the gesso in and then using the palette knife almost to remove it. So it's just a thin layer on top. You could use a brush as well, but if you want this kind of, how do I say it, worn kind of edge, maybe would be the way to say it, then a palette knife is your tool, or an old credit card, because with a brush these kind of markings are harder to achieve. Sorry about my English, I'm losing words. Now a quick dry, sorry about the noise. The gesso is acrylic based, so it's really fast drying, not that long of a wait. Thank you, Brian. Next, some dimensional paste on top. So it's here that you can see when I'm working whatever project, it might be a card, it might be an art journal, I often layer things, and in the end not everything will be visible anymore, but that's part of the fun in my book. I know that there's layers and at least half of the thing is actually doing the project and not the finished version. So let's put, this one is a Finnabar stencil. I think it was called Machinery. Maybe like that. And this is Grunge paste. Modeling paste from PaperArtsy. You could do this with gesso as well, but if you want a really intricate impression, then modeling paste, something that's sturdier, is then handy, because it has more detail, because it's more like a heavy body medium. Whereas gesso, as it's more fluid, might run underneath the stencil more easily. I'm thinking if I'm using the same pattern, or maybe this way. Yeah, let's go with this. So I'm first pushing the medium through the stencil and then kind of cleaning the top, so not much of the medium goes to waste. Maybe just a little bit there. And then I have a bucket of water underneath the table where I will put the stencil now and clean it later. so I don't have to run to the closet just now. Then let's close the jar, clean the palette knife a little, and unfortunately then we have to dry again. Let's hope that's okay for now. As this is water-based product, then it's handy to have it quite dry before I'm adding the colorants on top, which also need water, so this won't start bleeding into the colorants. Let's start with this page. It feels more drier than this one. For the colorants, I'm mixing watercolors with infusions. These are like little dye crystals, which are permanent after drying. And then there's also walnut crystals in here. Hi, Kim. So it's a little bit grungy looking. I'm sprinkling the infusions to the page first. So there's a hole in the cap and it's more like a pepper shaker. And then just some watercolor. I'm using the same kind of green that already is here. And the water and the watercolor will react with the infusions. The more water I use, the more brown the walnut colors are then coming through from the infusions. So if I want it more green, either I don't add that much water, which with my technique is a no-no. I can't do it that much drier, so that's why I'm using watercolor, kind of the bring on more of the green tone. But I do love the grungy brown as well, because even though I'm using just one watercolor, there's a multitude of different greens happening then on the page, which I really like. As you can see, I'm kind of building the same thing on opposite pages, just a little different, but they're same elements going, which kind of combines the two pages together. And when I'm painting or adding the color, I'm kind of wiggling with my brush so that there's not that hard edge. I'm not painting, but more like just adding color in a way. And then I want some splashes, because that's a perfect way to mask the edge as well. Here we go. Then I want a little bit of this emerald, more emerald color, so a touch of blue from the palette to the mix to make it more of that bluer green that's in the paper I'm using, but just for the splashes, kind of continuing that color to the white or neutral area I already have from the other paper. Let's be happy with that. And then, sorry again drawing, but this is the last time for this page, I'm thinking. Okay, let's again be happy. It's somewhat dry, oh not dry, wet still, but I'm okay with it as long as it's not just flowing with water anymore. Sometimes when I'm working, I'm starting with a bigger piece of paper and then cut it in half or to fit inside my journal only after I have all the background done and I'm kind of going into the actual composition part. But sometimes I'm doing this. What I don't do that often is actually start with the blank page directly from the journal. What I'm now doing is adding some decorative tape, washi tape, to the mix. And as you can see, I'm not going here to the kind of center of the circular pattern, but a little bit further away because there's going to be those embellishments coming on top. Let me show you from here. So, for example, here they actually are a little bit floating, the pieces, but there's no point of me putting something underneath here because they won't show at all. Even though I'm doing mediums underneath, then this can be a little penny saver or savvy way not to put everything underneath in this case. And this tape is from a Finnish brand and kind of matches with the greens that already are in the page. Yeah. Then some pencil work. I'm just adding some text or words to the background, and well, I could just scribble, but probably you have already heard it that if I just put some kind of loops and shapes, it doesn't look like writing. So whether it being a grocery store list or just random words, use actual words if you're imitating words, but you can then kind of elongate or shorten the letters so it doesn't have to be readable anymore. So let's, for example, crafting together with all brands. So you really can't tell what I'm writing, but it's actual words, so there's a different rhythm to that, whether I would just put some kind of wavy lines here. Together. Crafting. And I'm using just a regular pencil to do these because it's dark enough so you can see it a little bit, but it's not overpowering. If I would use a black marker, for example, it would then rise on top, be the kind of center of attention. But this way it's more like a just texture on the background. Then actual stamping. Let's use this ink first and that stamp. This is just random numbers. Text and numbers are really handy if you're doing a mixed media background, because they go to every project. For this case I chose or opted for numbers, because the man is a mystery math man crunching the mystery numbers, so he needs to have some numbers on the background as well. I'm kind of going around the composition I already have going here, just adding one more layer, one more detail to draw the eye in. Going a little bit to the white area, mixing it with the black, kind of merging the two together with the stamping. There. That's it. Then we need the actual man. If you want me to say that stamps that I'm using, like their codes, please let me know. They are in the blog post. But if you are wondering, then please let me know and I'll say them. Now let me move this aside for a while so I have more space. Anna is saying that she don't like math, but this math is okay. Yeah. Math is handy, but I like the craft math more. Let me see, it's not totally inked. Oh, let's do it like this. I hardly ever use an acrylic block when I'm stamping. Here it would be really handy to have one. But still, I'm just doing it freehand. But especially with the backgrounds, I find acrylic block really restricting. So it's handier to do it like this. A little bit more ink. So luckily I have more paper, and I do have one man already stamped beforehand. If I'm not getting a perfect image this time. I'm guessing the camera is now going berserk. Not that much, luckily. Let's try. Better. Let's go with that. And then we need this one, number cruncher. Then these aside, and then this one, a film strip, which you can use, like you can find the old films from flea markets, I'm guessing, and you can buy. Tim Holtz, for example, has a roll of the teeny tiny one, but if you have a stamp, some transparency that's especially heat resistant, and an ink that goes on top, then you have almost unlimited supply of film strip. This is a PaperArtsy stamp, and I'm inking it using a StazOn, how do you say it, ink that's suitable for plastic non-absorbing surfaces. Am I still on camera? Yeah. Hopefully I didn't get anything. Nope, not in the middle. Here an acrylic block would be really handy, but not that it's far. It's just 1 meter beside me, but still. Let's continue without the block, because I said that hardly ever I use one, so. As you can see, this one isn't as big as this one, but when I'm then using it in this project, you really can't tell, because it's just a little detail underneath everything, kind of hiding the seam in that way. But I'm guessing you got the idea from this one, so I can use the one that I made earlier. Then we have the background stamp, we have the man stamp, whoops, and we have the background almost done. So it's time to do the actual composition. When I'm doing the composition, I usually have a bigger element and then some smaller kind of coming on top. So we have a bigger element for this is either the clocks or then this little craft envelope that I used in the sample. Like there's a teeny tiny bit of it here and then a bigger here. So let's do that. Let's cut this one in half, or not in half, a smaller bit and a bigger bit. So this one needs to be now smaller, like so. And this one here. Then let's use double-sided tape to adhere it. And then I can use foam tape for the elements coming on top. So we have some dimensional things in the composition as well. Come on. Let's do it like this, so it goes over the green strip a little bit. Come on. And then another here. And let's mask them to the background just a little bit, not enough. I was hoping there would still be ink left in the stamp, but there wasn't, so let's ink it a little. Mask it just a teeny tiny touch with the numbers. Hi Rian! You are just in time for making the actual composition. We have this clock, but I'm thinking now that's too big. Do we have a smaller one here that I could use? Because that one's okay. I'm thinking this one might be. On is the Finnish sellers have this one. Yeah, I'll say the number in a second, just cutting this real quickly. The math man is, oops daisy, man of numbers 2. Mon 2 or M-O-N, Mon 2. We need a little bit more flowers there then. Let me put those to the floor for now. Then we need the man. So I'm thinking that's a nicer version of him. So let's just take that one and cut this one out. Now that I'm cutting, and that's not that interesting, let me go over what I have done so far. So Rian will catch up better, maybe. So first I added some pattern papers to the background. Then I added gesso on top, so I have more playtime with the mediums. Then the dimensional part, so I used a modeling paste through a stencil. After drying that, I then added some watercolors and infusions on top. Added some splashes, kind of hiding the edge of the color and non-treated areas. Then I stamped the focal point, so this mystery mathematician, I can't say it, sorry, math man. And then some film strips, some words, and added some stamping to the background as well. I added some tape to the background, like decorative tape, and some pencil words, just writing the name of the group a couple of times so it looks like words and not that just scribbles. So I was talking about in the beginning that if I do it like this, mirrored to the sample page, the theme or the atmosphere will be different. And that's because if I put him now here, he is kind of staring out of the page. So it's already that he's gone through the page, or he's really anxious or scared because he's now staring into the wall or just leaving the page. Or the other option, I'm putting him here where he has more space for his gaze, but then he needs something to be grounding him, otherwise he's just floating in the air. And well, the atmosphere is a little bit different. Let me see. Oh, Anna is saying that she got first Lynn Perella stamp from me as she won a lottery I was having in my Instagram account, and now she already has 4 sets, so I'm not sure if I should say yay or sorry for addicting you then. But they are gorgeous stamps. But yeah, I'm thinking that he's now here, just about to leave the page. Then this clock comes here. Then we need a little bit of this. There. Where are my scissors? This one here, then that one there. Let's start with these. Let's use just glue for this one. Transparency, so I'm just adding glue to the edge that I'm then hiding underneath the clock, because otherwise it will show that is. Then I use foam tape for the clocks. I put just a piece of foam tape kind of center underneath the thing, because then I can tuck elements underneath if I need to. Then why I'm sticking everything down already, if I'm thinking of putting something underneath, because that makes things move faster. Because if I don't adhere anything to the page, there's well, let me exaggerate and say a million options that I can then add the things to. So it will take me forever to kind of think which will go to which place if I don't just stick something down, because then it's a decision made and I have to work around it, rather than I have everything moving around and thinking, should I put it here or here or here or here? When I just have it down, then it's easier for me to add another element and another element on top. Then we need the flowers. I think that will be lovely there. Do we have something to hide this edge, or should we, maybe we should actually exaggerate it using a piece of this one, or maybe in this way. Yeah, the other way around. Then tucking it a little bit underneath. Then we can have some of the flowers coming on top. Yeah, I like it up here. Again, let's not fiddle around more, but just add some glue there. Just a little bit shorter. Perfect. Yeah, over there. So even though I have the sample project here, the elements are a little bit different, of course, but I'm just following my eye, thinking where to put these things, and then quite fast actually adhering it. Then we need a touch of red, would look nice here. Some glue. And this is kind of my way, so I'm adding just a touch of glue to the center of the flower and pressing it down, and that's enough for me. If you want it sturdier than before, because these are from the paper, this one, sorry. These are cut from here, so if you add a double-sided adhesive first and then cut them, then they are like stickers and you'll be able to have them laying flat. But this, on the other hand, gives me some dimension as well, because I'm adding them partly just kind of raised. Now I'm thinking a smaller white flower might be nice here, someplace. Somehow there, looks fine, so let's go with that. And then, what else? Well, he's not secured yet, so let's put some double-sided tape underneath and put him as a part of the page. Then there's, well, adding to journaling, kind of, which is from those stamped words, together with some stickers, and you could even use the name of the papers in the collection. For example, this is mystery flower, so that's where I get the mystery. Whoopsie-daisy, sorry. And well, maybe we could use welcome in this one. But then there's also one tip that kind of binds the now maybe a little bit floating flowers better to the page in a way. Because by simply adding then watercolors, the ones I used on the background, also to the flowers, makes them more like a part of the page and have some kind of your own touch on them. Let's use one of these as kind of his boutonniere, like I did in the other page as well. By just adding some watercolor, it doesn't have to be perfect, the same color, or even perfectly painted, but just a touch of that media on top then makes, at least in my opinion, a big difference. Yeah, let's put that one still there. Yeah. If it's worth doing, it's worth overdoing. I promise this is the last one. If I then want to add something more, then I'll do it, let's say, on my own time. Then a couple of paper clips, because I just got to. Thinking, are they this way or the other way? Maybe this way. It's kind of holding him back. Then the words with the foam tape, and then the finishing touches with the watercolor. I promise we are soon there. Please let me know if you have any questions about this or the background or something completely different. I'm happy to share whatever knowledge I may possess. Another small piece for that one. Complete silence as I'm now thinking what to write. Let's go with my first idea of mystery number cruncher. You are welcome. So mystery number cruncher. So mystery is from the 12 by 12 sheet, or it could be from a book. Then the number cruncher is from the stamp set, and then we need a couple of words from this one. Hopefully I'm able to find U and R quite fast. I should have picked them earlier. Where are you? Well, there's no point of me trying to find them right now because they didn't jump to my eye right away. So I can do that afterwards and then share the picture to the group. But as the last touch, I'm using a really translucent watercolor, so much water, a little bit of pigment, because I don't want to change the color too much, but more like just add a hint of that green that I have underneath there, and also make the printed elements more as a part of the page rather than they are just floating on top. That's actually a brownish tone I'm using for the red flower, so it doesn't matter if it's correct one. You can use inks even, but my suggestion would be water them down, so it's more like a translucent color coming on top than a really solid version. But this is just a kind of way to transform the flower more as a part of the project, to add a little bit of medium on top than just leave it as it is. I'm not sure if you're able to see the difference, but I'm thinking it's a little handy trick to bring the colors from the background to the foreground. Then let's add a touch there and a touch here, kind of like a shade. There, I think we are done. I just need to find the words then afterwards. So here's the sample version where he's looking forward to the future and to the bigger clock, and then here he is already trying to leave the page. Completely different atmosphere. So almost the same, but not quite. Same medium, same steps, but different atmosphere. Of course, if you would have then another stamp gazing this direction, it would be, again, different feeling. Thank you, Kati. Kiitos. Thank you, Noreen. Thank you, Kay. Oops, I'm out of the picture. And it's just about kind of picking the, I wouldn't say right papers, but the papers you can use in multiple ways. For example, here, the double-sided paper having the embellishments and the background papers, so it's really handy. Then bringing the colors to the background from the papers or from the mood you're then trying to achieve, and then adding some of that color to the topmost layer as well, kind of binding everything together. Stamps are really handy for background work and making little embellishments or even journaling. So I hope there's some tips for you. You find something new from this one. Kiitos, Tarja. If you have any questions, just leave them here. I'll go through them now after the live. And if you're watching the replay recording, then just tag me if I don't seem to notice your comment. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for having me. And well, have a nice evening or day, depending where you are. And I'll pop the photo of the finished page or spread after it's completely dry and done, then to a group. Have a great evening. Thank you. Bye.